What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about things that most Americans completely misunderstand about Canada. So today, I want to take a look at this Reddit discussion where somebody said, I am a proud Canadian. What would you say is the most misunderstood things about Canada or Canadians? They say, as Canadians, there's so many individuals that truly do not understand our culture, our way of life, our country, and our people. They stereotype us as Canadians. They don't get us. So, what do you think or feel are the biggest misunderstandings people have about Canadians? And as an American myself, I can definitely attest to the fact that many of us Americans have no idea what Canada is really like. Most of us have never traveled there. We only learn about Canada a little bit in school, and the rest we just kind of piece together through stereotypes and random things we hear growing up about Canada. So today I'm really interested in taking a look at what Canadians have to say about some of the most misunderstood things about Canada. So, with all that being said, let's take a look here. Starting with, most people misunderstand Canada's extreme size. Most Americans, and especially Europeans, fundamentally do not understand how massive Canada's territory is. I do think this is true for a lot of Americans. I've started to kind of appreciate how big Canada is, but to be completely honest, for the vast majority of my life, when I visualized like what does Canada look like, how big is it? It's sad, but I really didn't have a picture in my mind. Canada is freaking huge when you actually look at a map. Isn't it like the second biggest country? Like just like under Russia or something, right? And Europeans, at least as Americans, we live in a pretty big country here. The United States is pretty darn big. I think Europeans, they probably have an even bigger misunderstanding. To be fair, to give Americans a little credit, we can kind of relate because we're in a big country too. For Europeans, it's probably like the UK or I don't like Germany or something. That's the size of is that even the size of one province in Canada? Like it's not even remotely comparable. Like Canada, it must be very difficult for people in Europe and places like that who live their entire lives in pretty small countries to really relate to how big Canada is. But I feel like Americans can kind of relate. It's just that we, from a purely ignorance point of view, oftentimes Americans just don't know like what the land mass of Canada is or what it looks like. As embarrassing as that is to admit, Texans down south love to beat their chest about Texas being the largest state. But my home province of British Columbia is 1.5 times bigger than Texas. Is it? Is that true? Okay, I feel like they don't scale the map properly. Because Texas looks freaking huge on the map. It's huge. They got big hats, Doesn't that count for something? British Columbia is 1.5 times bigger than Texas? Okay, then even I don't even understand how big Canada is then. That's a good one. Let's keep going. Biggest misunderstandings about Canada. I think a lot of people conflate us as being nice or polite with being pushovers. Sure. I mean, here in the United States, sure. I don't know if pushover is pretty harsh. I don't necessarily, I don't know. This is this is a tough one for me. I'm really trying to think, what do most Americans think about Canadians, like in this way. We definitely think Canadians are very polite, very respectful. You say sorry a lot. Um, I never thought of Canadians as pushovers. Like, even growing up, knowing nothing about Canada, I never thought, like, oh, what a bunch of pushovers. I never thought that. Maybe there's Americans, like, who think that. I don't know. That's kind of dumb. But I can easily see, like, sadly, we do live in a world. Well, sadly, I should say in America, being overly polite can be seen as being weak, which can be seen as being a pushover. Yeah, sadly, that's true. Being too polite in America, that can definitely be like a bad thing. Like, the more if I'm being very real, the more I think about it, like in school, even like in adult life, if you're too polite, too kind, and like in America, there's this element, very real elements of like, you gotta watch out for yourself. You gotta do what you need to do to get ahead, to win, you got to be the best. You can't be second place. That there's very much that mentality. We've very much lost that community, sort of social community feel in a lot of parts of America. That's true. Not to get too philosophical about this, but apparently American media was shocked that we didn't take annexation threats and tariffs lying down. Canadians fight hard for what we believe in. I don't watch too much of like TV, mainstream American media. I see like I see it. Like, if it's really, really big news, I do see it. So was American media shocked that Canada was unhappy about annexation threats and tariffs? I wouldn't say anyone is shocked. I would actually say it wasn't talked about that much, which is kind of an even bigger insult in a way. I don't think Americans would be, I think most Americans aren't surprised Canadians are offended about annexation threats and tariffs. I think most Americans can definitely understand that. It's just that in American media, in American, when we talk about stuff, pop culture, and just talking, day-to-day life, we're not talking about we're not talking a lot about the annexation threats and the tariffs on Canada. Especially now, that's kind of, isn't it sad with all the craziness going on in America? That's kind of like old news. But even months ago, it wasn't being talked about like, oh, what do Canadians think about this? That was never the topic. It was just, how does this affect America? What's America doing? Like, what's this going to do for us? Is this bad or good for us? Sadly, that's more what it was. Anyway, we're getting a little off topic here, I feel. These are supposed to be misunderstood things about Canada. That Canadians being nice means they're pushovers. Some Americans probably misunderstand and think that, but that's not even just a Canadian thing. It's just in American culture, you do have to be a little more assertive, I think, or you could be seen as weak. You have to be a little more selfish in a way. Yeah, like saying sorry in America is admitting you did something wrong. It's admitting you were wrong. And you can never admit you're wrong. No, that God forbid. It's more that. It's more in that sense, Americans truly don't understand Canadian culture and Canadian society. That's definitely true. I am an American who just spent 6 months in Canada. Oh, interesting. I never wanted to leave, and I live in New York City. I spent a lot of time in Canada just walking around talking to people. This person went on like a meditative like walkabout in Canada or something. Everyone was easy and fun to talk to. Everyone seemed calm. Calm, interesting word, calm, unlike the United States. I think I saw only one cop the whole time I was there. What? Only one? In the United States, like going out, driving around town, whatever, even around the neighborhood. Um, you always see like one police car or something, I would say, during the day. Or I could go on and on. All I can say of the places I've been, I never encountered more intelligent, informed, kind, friendly people. Man, Canadians, you must be loving this. But, not to say it isn't true, but this American freaking loves Canada. Um, so this is a really interesting perspective. An American who visited Canada and kind of had an epiphany, like, oh my God, people can behave this way. And I would expect this to happen to plenty of Americans, really, if this is true. I was in Canada when the tariff issue broke. People were consoling me, saying stuff like they felt bad I had to live in the United States. Wow. If that's not empathy, I don't know what is. It's like the United States is doing all these terrible things to Canada, and Canadians are like, you know what? I feel sorry for you. That's like the best revenge you can have, isn't it? It's like you don't get angry, you don't get out of control. You're just like, America, I feel bad for you. That's, oh my God. Jeez. I fantasize about driving to Seattle and crawling back to the Canada across the border. Wow. Wow. That's a really powerful little comment from an American there. We like okay, this is misunderstood things about Canada. In Canada, we like our personal space. We may or may not shake hands. Is shaking hands common in Canada? Remember for like with the pandemic and stuff, shaking hands just went away. Remember you were supposed to like touch elbows or something? I forgot about that. I'm like, but shaking hands went away for years. I guess that's back now. But putting that aside, that situation, in Canada, is handshaking common, expected? Because in the United States, shaking hands, it's extremely common, very expected. In Canada, we do this awkward acknowledgement smile. Okay. If we make eye contact with strangers. I think I know what you're talking about. If you like are walking down the street and you make eye contact, you don't really mean to with a stranger. You just look at them and you're like, kind of keep walking. You ever do? Is that the smile? It's like, oh, keep walking. Is that about every man knows the up or down nod? Right. It can either be up or down. I think I think we are finding some kind of funny actual meeting of the minds, a connection between American and Canadian culture. It transcends culture, the awkward smile. Why, who came up with that? One should never equate French Canada with France. Oh my, okay. This is a good one. This is definitely something Americans don't understand about Canada. We have no idea how the French Canada thing works. Don't equate French Canada with actual France. French Canadians have over 400 year history in Canada. Of course, they have their own unique culture, accent, history. Stop comparing them to whatever you experienced on your week vacation to Paris. Interesting. Yeah, I can't even begin to imagine like the nuances or the differences between France French and Canadian French culture. Yes, I'll openly admit we don't understand that at all. Most misunderstood about Canada that we're all hockey fanatics. Really? This is a misunderstanding? Okay, because I as an American, I did think Canada was filled with hockey fanatics. I did think that. It's popular, but a lot of people in Canada don't follow it or don't care about it. Is that true? As a proud Canadian, I don't follow hockey. Really? Now I'm kind of confused. Because I thought this was one of those Canadian stereotypes that was kind of true. And it's not even a bad stereotype. That's the thing. There's no reason to get defensive about this one, you know. It's like in America, there's a stereotype that Asian people are all very, very smart and very accomplished. Not the worst stereotype in the world to have. If you, I mean, I don't know. Never good to overgeneralize a group of people, of course, but if someone wanted to call me a genius just for being like a white guy, if that was the stereotype, I would not fight it. Okay, I'm gonna drop it. But Canadians all being hockey fanatics, is that not as true as Americans think? Because we definitely think that. Canadians are inherently nice. So is this a misunderstanding about Canada? You guys are not inherently nice? That's the truth? We truly do try to take care of each other in Canada, and if we're nice to you and then you stab us in the back, we will match that treachery with 5 times the rage. Is this like, are we talking about something like America, Canada here, stabbing in the back, rage and revenge, and so I don't get it. The misunderstanding is Canadians are just nice and will never do anything to retaliate. That's the misunderstanding. If you stab Canadians in the back, they will come at you with 5 times worse. Okay, yes, a lot of Americans definitely are not prepared for that. Absolutely. True. Canadians, we're not super nice. We just prefer to avoid confrontation. That is a distinguishment for sure. Because a lot of Americans do just assume all Canadians are nice. Maybe Canadians just want society to operate smoothly. Like I can relate to this. I can relate to this too. I want to avoid confrontation, so I don't want to like get into confrontations or be aggressive towards people, but that doesn't mean you're like this super nice, sweet, innocent person just because you want to be a productive member of society and not get into fights. I can relate to that. Yeah, I get that. Okay. Misunderstanding about Canada is to think French Canada is Quebec only. Really? What a. I, that's absolutely true. I thought Quebec was French Canada. There's other parts? All French cultures in every province are important. What are the other French cultures? What? Pour mes amis francophones? Oh, we're talking in French here. No, you can't just start talking in French. I don't know what you're saying. So there's other parts of Canada that are French speaking other than Quebec. That's okay. That's good to know. That is a lot of Americans definitely don't understand that. That's yeah. For the most part, Canadians don't mind being ignored by the rest of the world. That's come to an end. Huh. What is this saying? This is saying the misunderstanding is that Canadians are just the meek, quiet, don't want a big voice or presence. That's the misunderstanding. It's come to an end, and Canadians want that to come to an end, especially in today's political climate. You know, Canadians are really like doing a lot of trade deals with the world, doing a lot of stuff. Honestly, yeah, okay. I think I understand what you're saying there. I'm okay, misunderstandings about Canadians. I'm not cold when I'm walking in shorts when it's 10 degrees outside. I assume 10 degrees Celsius is cold. I'm going to take your word for it. I don't know Celsius. Um, I can feel the cold air on my skin, but I am not cold. What? When you spend the winter dealing with -20 to -30, 10 degrees is downright balmy. 20 degrees is warm. 20 degrees Celsius is warm? All right, I'll humor you here. Let me see here. 20 Celsius to Fahrenheit. 68? That's a good temperature. It's not warm. What's 10? Hold on. 10 degrees. 50? 50 is warm? 10. Oh my god. Okay. Canadians, I think depending on where you live, yeah. I mean, this isn't really a misunderstanding though. It's kind of a stereotype. Americans, we do assume Canadians can, bear the cold, walk around in shorts. We think you guys are crazy and that you can survive the winters with t-shirts. I wouldn't even say that's a misunderstanding. We understand that you guys are insane and can like walk around in the snow and drive and be outside. I understand. I'm scared of it. I mean, I don't understand how you do it, but all right. Anyway, I think with that, that's a good place to stop. This was really interesting. And it was really cool hearing from Canadians about a lot of different topics of misunderstood things about Canada. We kind of jumped around all over the place, which was kind of fun. So I got a lot out of this. I learned a lot about Canadian culture, actually. So anyway, if you enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment. Leave a comment if you're Canadian with give your opinion on really misunderstood things about Canada. That'd be awesome to hear more about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Canada and learning about Canadian culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching and see you next time.